Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's the 20th of April, 2026. I lose track of years. I've been doing this for so long. There's a big earthquake in Japan. They evacuated the Fukushima plant and the Daini plant, the homeless have, the destitute and victims of society. My goodness. So, I don't know, I know why, I guess, but the species worldwide are suffering a catastrophic starvation event. It's been going on since March 11, 2011. That's the gallows laugh, by the way. I'm not mocking it. I can't talk about it without being mortified. And it's hard for people to wrap their minds around it, and that's totally not acceptable. So we have been trying to educate people for a very long time. I don't know if I should be on the side, on the top. Does Japan have a history of covering up earthquake damage at nuclear power plants? That is a scary statement. James has put out a song. I put a link in the description for you. Put out a song of pointing at the gray whale starvation event, and we're going to just play that little song. My throat's still a bit raw, and I'll be right back after that. And do we ever got a tale of earthquakes to talk about tonight? There we go. I'll be right back. This is about whales starving to death worldwide.
Distance for precious silt and moving coat for the first life ration.
When I start live, that
no cathedral mouth could hold. Not for the supervised estuary, not for ferries, tugs and spray. Not for a stopover sold as mercy under the commerce of the bay. They call it range, they call it change, they call it one more altered route. They chart the strike, they chart the tide, they never chart what bottomed out. No feast below, no room below, only traffic lanes and toll lines, where a sovereign body slows. No feast below, no depth below, only sanctioned water keeping him where the open sea won't show. Already diminished, already wrong inside his skin. An open water will made hesitant, a master body narrowed thin. This harbor is restricted comfort, a managed blue, a smaller law, a place to keep him half alive above the failure of the floor.
Think of San Francisco Bay whales showing up
They call it useful if he stays. But hunger dressed as adaptation is still hunger in new names. No feast below, no room below, only traffic lanes and tow lines, where a sovereign body slows. No feast below, no depth below, only sanctioned water keeping him where the open sea won't show. Something entered by a proper name, and every careful mouth says don't. Something altered after 2011, and every office learns it won't. Filter feeder, plankton body built from things too small to see. Fukushima is the word beneath the word inside marine ecology. No feast below, no room below. The body learns the traffic pattern, where the feeding used to go. No feast below, no depth below, only this restricted comfort. With Fukushima under all of it. No feast below, no place to turn, no place below.
I'm here somewhere. Bear with me. I just figured out what was going on. I think I did. I do believe I did. Let me get this up and running here now. Okay, so we got a big earthquake in Japan. Done no damage apparently. Nothing. That's crazy. Thank goodness Japan was just starting to promote nuclear, so that would be quite the blow to it if there's a bunch of damage. It's convenient. They have one of the biggest earthquakes they've seen in several years. No damage. It was in a place where it always does damage, and lots of it. Like Fukushima, of course. I gotta try to figure that out in a minute, that part. Actually, I know how to do that. That's, I thought it was augmented reality was turned on. That's why. Okay, well, there you go. I think I fixed it. There we go. There we go. My apologies. I get into the bigger screen for everybody. I'll figure it out. Japan earthquake and tsunami. Warning forces evacuation from Fukushima nuclear plant. Now that song is about gray whales in particular, but it's every species of whales as you were seeing that time. But there's a lot of cover stories because in San Francisco where whales don't go, let alone go and die from starvation, like you've been looking at those pictures, they have a big population, and the population pretty skittish, right? And nuclear power is a very dominant cult in anywhere too, worldwide, let alone the United States, which is propaganda or it's called social engineering. And so under the sound there's a link. Kevin Blanche got a great video out, by the way, about it. But there's also a public relation campaign ongoing for 80 years from the nuclear industry to dumb people down. That's a crude way to put it, but social engineer people to a point where they're barely able to recite the alphabet. Kids at this stage can't even write out the alphabet because of screen time, right? Let's keep her going for a second here. So Japan evacuation warning forces evacuation from Fukushima plant. Does that look like Fukushima plant to anybody? That's the evil twin, so to speak. Which is probably not a good thing to say because it doesn't usually work that way. Japanese earthquake and tsunami warning forces evacuation from the Fukushima nuclear disease factory. Homeless at the 2 Fukushima power plants in Japan were forced to evacuate to higher ground. That's quite a long story to try to go down tonight, but at the end of this earthquake stuff that we're going to cover, I might wander down that path again for everybody. That's what we were supposed to cover tonight, was the Freedom of Information files that are all linked below, well, to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's 4 links, which is 4.2 million emails post-Fukushima, but nothing happened, of course, right? In response to the tsunami advisory issued from the Fukushima Prefecture, evacuation orders were issued to workers. As of now, we confirm all personnel at both stations have evacuated to higher ground. Nothing happened anywhere. So when you look at this plant, now you say you've had a big earthquake off the coastline, would you be worried about that reigniting? Because that's what is possible with nuclear meltdowns. Like chlorine dioxide water, hang on. So good for you, that stuff. Oh, let me go backwards 1 second. Higher grounds, blah, blah, blah. As I know, we confirm all personnel are evacuated. Great. Thank you so much. All right. Bloop. Here we go. And we got to take you back in time now because of that poll I got there tonight. I'm going to show you examples, right, pretty quick here. Incredible examples. Incredible examples. Did I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, do I? So you can see the X marks the spot. So it's very unusual. Like most countries will give you the distance off the coastline and the depth. You take it for granted, right? But not Japan and not Taiwan. And both of them, by the way, uses the so-called Shindu scale. Not so-called, but it is the Shindu scale. And this is based on a 1 to 7 instead of the Richter scale, which is based on 10. As actually, the Richter scale is based on 100. Every number is based on 10. Whereas the Shindu scale, every number is based on 2. So it's 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 6, 6.5, 7. And where the Richter scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, all the way to 100. So it's based on 100, right? Each number is 1 of 100. Where here each number is 1 in 14. And 7 would be equivalent to a 10 on a Richter scale. So it's very confusing, right? That's on purpose. Because it's on the tectonic plates. And there's 4 tectonic plates converging. And I got that there in the story tonight. Why didn't we pick a more simple subject where you don't have to have such a fast memory? So major tsunami warning. Tsunami warning is red. Tsunami advisory. That's still ongoing for the next week. We'll cover all that pretty quickly. This was the latest. The last headline. This headline just came out like a half an hour before we started the presentation. An 80-centimeter tsunami reached Kuji port in Iwate Prefecture, roughly 40 minutes after the quake, which is 10 minutes quicker than the tsunami from Fukushima reaching the coastline. Agency issued a special week-long alert covering 182 municipalities and 7 prefectures from Hokkaido, which is your most northerly, to Chiba, and Chiba is right up by Tokyo. So Hokkaido, which we're going to talk about in less than a few minutes, you see the yellow at the top of the page, that's the outlying islands off of Hokkaido. Hokkaido is a big island, and so it's a very long distance, 1,300 miles. A coastline was destroyed by Fukushima. And so this is a bit further. An 80-centimeter tsunami reached the Kuji port, roughly 40 minutes after. We said that, Dana. Issued a special week-long, 182 communities, municipalities. The elevated chances, according to the agency, is 1 in about 100, when it should be 1 in 1,000 during ordinary times of a tsunami, right? I think that's what they're talking about. No, I'm sorry, the earthquake and tsunami combo. Come on, Dana, come to life. You know, you work really hard on this stuff, and then you sit there and you try to tell the story, because if you wait for another day, you won't be able to remember all the details sometimes, because it's typically so complicated. Quake occurred under the seabird. No, there's no such thing as Easter as actually seabird, but it's got nothing to do with this, Dan. It's a seabed at a depth of 19 kilometers and registered the upper 5 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale of 7. 7. Dirty Jeffs, boy. In the nuclear industry, of course, I'm talking about, not the rest of them. Upper 5 is some of them. Upper 5 is described as a level where people find it difficult to shit without holding on to something. Walk. It doesn't say that, Dan. It says walk. Why can't you just say it like nuclear propaganda wants you to? Well, if you were trying to shit and you can't walk in that earthquake, you won't be able to shit either, right? I thought that was important. Apparently it wasn't. There's no abnormalities reported in bathrooms or spent nuclear fuel storage facilities in Aomori Prefecture. Spent nuclear fuel storage facility. This is where they're intending to make the plutonium mixed oxide. They've been working on a plutonium mixed oxide facility for almost 30 years. I guess it's 30 years this year on this anniversary. 30 years trying to build a plutonium mixed oxide of their own, because you usually send a lot of it away to Sellafield, which doesn't have a plutonium mixed oxide facility anymore, or Daini in Ireland or UK and Scotland. And The Hague was doing a lot for Japan too, but they were sending back all the nuclear waste straight. Yeah, we'll take the plutonium for the bombs. We'll release a lot of it into the environment, and whatever's left over, we're going to send it back to you, okay? Oh, yeah, no. We won't charge you too much to give us weapon-grade plutonium. Uh, 182,000 people ran away from 182 communities of Hokkaido, Aomori, Iwate, Miyagi, and Fukushima. Fukushima has been ordered to evacuate. All right. Japan issues rare. Well, it won't be low, because that's all you really do is low. It says rare advisory over a chance of more powerful earthquakes. Excuse me. So there was one story that told us it was 70 kilometers off the coastline, because Japan is metric, like the poor slaves here in Canada to the nuclear industry. We're stupid too. We use metric. And they revised it, I think, to 19 kilometers deep. These are very shallow. The reason that they invoked a tsunami was because it's on the tectonic plates. Right? So if you move it up the coastline a little ways, it's the same tectonic plates as off Fukushima, which is a pretty stupid spot to build nuclear reactors, right on the tectonic plates. But don't worry, nothing could possibly happen. So up here, you're going to see little check marks. These are verified. These are all major medias, and they all put up clickbait pictures. I just want to show you that. I think they always do it, but I don't always show. I do show it sometimes, not very often. I just want to do it tonight, right? So the idea is desensitize you to strong earthquakes in Japan. Whenever you hear an earthquake, the average person will hear, after going through all this and not seeing what the thumbnail depicts, they won't want to come back anymore. They always bullshit. They don't show you nothing. I'm not looking at that no more. That's one of the things we assume that they're putting up this clickbait for, because when you look at how much major medias are doing this, WION is brutal, aren't they? There was a lot more than that I screwed up or something. Hang on here. Okay. Level 3 is defined as making it hard for people to remain standing. And one that makes rolling furniture move uncontrollably while the furniture is unsecured may topple over. But there was no damage. I got no damage to report tonight, nothing. So they take it to a new level because they just opened up a nuclear reactor in a known fault line that is reactivated after 3,500 years. And we're going to get to that pretty quick here. And yesterday there was an earthquake in Nanao, which is right by Ishikawa, right there attached to the Ishikawa Prefecture. But Nanao is right on the fault line. It runs right down to one that in January 1st, 2024, of the Shika at the Noto Peninsula, which is Ishikawa Prefecture. We covered it for like 30 days. They said the earthquake in the basement of it was like a 7 out of a 7 in the basement of a nuclear power plant. I'm not kidding you. You can't make that stuff up. I couldn't make that stuff up. If I did, I wouldn't say that out loud. Crux, the Tsunami live cameras. This is allegedly CNN, News 18. Of course, they're brutal. New York Post putting up the same propaganda. And this is one of my favorites. This is Shika itself. Remember Shika? We were just talking about it. They had a massive earthquake in the basement of it. It lifted the coastline up for 100 kilometers, 13 feet or something. They dried out 19 harbors. Are no longer usable but there was no damage. Today's got no damage anywhere, nothing. But they're putting up these pictures. So this was clearly a propaganda move. None of this is true, what you're looking at. I'm sure there's tons of damage, but they're not going to show it because they just opened up a nuclear plant in a highly questionable area. And this, like the Niigata nuclear power plant they just opened up, that's been closed down, dormant since 2011. They only opened up one of the 6 reactors. And then they had to close that down a couple of times in emergency right away. But anyway, apparently they got one up and running. Now, Nagata, on January 1st, 2024, just a little while ago, there was over 6,000 homes and businesses that were compromised or destroyed by liquefaction from the earthquake in the Ishikawa prefectures. That fault line off the Noto Peninsula was 3,000 to 4,000 years old. So I just call it 3,500 years ago. Because I forget sometimes because my brain is so tiny. I'm trying to remember all this all the time, and I can't tie my shoes anymore because I had to move that somewhere else so that I can remember stuff like this. I know what you're saying, Arthur, if you've never been here before. He's full of shit. I probably am. But not when it comes to this stuff. I'm always serious. It's always accurate. And if I make a Freudian sleep, make a Freudian sleep. The hell is a Freudian sleep, Dana? I don't know. That's a good question. I like it. It's got a little roll there too, don't it? Not Freudian slip, but a Freudian sleep. Where you forget everything for a long time, for at least 8 hours. That's called a Freudian sleep, where you forget everything. There's a lot of that going on in the media, that's for sure, in universities. This never happened, by the way. So if you went to YouTube looking for the truth and you didn't find it, that's some scary picture, isn't it? Dirty bastards. Money control. That never happened. I'm going to get to what happened. I want to get through all of this. That looks pretty scary. I got to click on that. Click on that. Honey, click on that, honey. That was going on a lot today, I bet you. Honey, go back there, click on that picture. It's happening. And they got a bunch of chicken necks there. I was watching 2 of them, and they brought in a nuclear chicken neck. And he was talking about, tsunamis can happen from meteorites, right? Direct everybody away from the fact that Japan is on tectonic plates on both sides, east and west. It runs right through the whole country on top of that. It's the same fault line in many ways, right? The Indian Express, you can always count on them to lie to you. CNBC TV 18. That's Shika. That's Shika. Why are they showing the nuclear plants for, I wonder? Desensitize people, Dana. Oh, I had to click on this one. There was nothing I could do about it. I was afraid at first, so I was like, I got to do it. I got to click on it. It could be real. This could be real. If I don't click on it, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I got to click on it. Give me a second. I got to calm down. I'm pretty upset here right now. The horror is shocking horror. Save the whales, close all nuclear power plants. La 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 la. Notice how my screen is not jumping back and forth anymore? That's because I'm smart. M-A-R-T, smart. You're jealous. Okay, save that. Drink. I just got to put t-shirts and crap under my video that nobody's going to buy it anymore because you probably can't get on my site. Pin products automatically. Okay, there we go. I think we're okay. We can get back on track. I was going to go out and take my fuel tank off and replace the fuel pump today. But Fukushima had to happen again. I was just miserable. That's the problem. I don't want to go out in all this misery and work on I don't want to go out and work on that. I bought motorcycles out yesterday for the first time since last year. Never seen a single bird. Had to go out and give them a little run, make sure everything's working. Otherwise, I got to start ordering parts for those things. I keep them working. I don't really have a problem with them. And I use them a lot each year. 6 months a year I'm on the motorcycles. Because you can get down into all the little spots in the communities, right? And check for migratory birds and check for insects and species and stuff. Since Fukushima, that's pretty hard pickings. Is that real, Dana? Was that real? Did that happen today, Dana? Did that happen? I don't know, Dana. I'm scared. No, that's not real. Don't be scared. The media just wants you to be scared. Did that happen, Dana? Huh? Did it? No, that's not real. Now, if I put the picture on my page of this today, my video would already be taken down. They hates me. They got some serious hate on for Dana. That's what they does. Earthquake buries home under landslides in Hokkaido, Japan. That was 2018. So we're going to talk about this for a second because I got a fancy poll tonight. See that? That's pretty fancy. Does Japan have a history of covering up earthquake damage at nuclear power plants? They got a history of covering up anywhere within proximity to a nuclear plant, too. Excuse me. So Fukushima, they covered that one up for 15 years. That's a pretty good history, I would hope. Every day for 15 years. The public relations firms were given a stupid amount of money worldwide to lie about it. Ongoing perpetual campaign to make sure nobody can say the words Fukushima out loud in public without getting 1,000-yard steers from every direction. Earthquake buries homes under landslides in Hokkaido, Japan. 22,000 people were involved in this rescue effort. Wow, must be a big earthquake. It was a 6.6 magnitude. Doesn't sound very big. We had like a 7.7 a day, Dana. What are you, fear-mongering? Yeah, I know. 2018 Hokkaido Eastern Ivory earthquake. This was an earthquake like no other. You've never seen an earthquake like this. You've never seen an earthquake do that before, have you? We dropped the payloads on every side of each mountain. Have you ever seen an earthquake do that, huh? A big shot. It registered a magnitude 6.7 and a maximum intensity of 7 on the Shindu scale. Now, how hard would it have been for whoever's editing, whichever nuclear scumbag was editing Wikipedia, to put in on a scale of 7? 7 at a scale of 7. But Wikipedia is not for education as much as it's for social engineering. So so you dropped the payloads in the mountains, you ripped open the communities, you massive landslides. When you zoom in on a landslide, that's pretty big stuff, right? That's some impressive stuff right there. So at the bottom of the hill, you can see the magnitudes of these earthquakes. So then when you look at every side of the mountain losing their payloads, doesn't that stop and make you wonder, is it really a 6.6? It's a 10 out of 10 on the Japanese scale, but it's a 6.6. It's 130 aftershocks. So it's an earthquake that was 6.7 magnitude, but it's a 7 out of 7 on the Japanese scale. So theoretically, the Japanese scale doesn't give the world a deeper look. In fact, it helps cover up the significance of the earthquake. That's some significance right there, look. That's how you spell that. S-I-N, significant. Registered a magnitude 6.7 and a maximum intensity of 7 on the Shindu scale, which is 7. They can't put that in there because there's not enough room on Wikipedia to put those other 3 words in there. It's simply not. So when you do the math, that's a 6.7 would have been a 9.5 on our scale. So they had a 10 out of 10 earthquake and called it a 7 on the Shindu scale, which most people have no concept and don't care. They're not even going to go look and try to figure it out and don't understand the fact that the Shindu scale is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, all the way to 7, whereas the Richter scale is 1, 1.1, 2, 2.2, 3, I'm sorry, 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.10, which is 2. And so that's 100, whereas this is only on a scale of 14. So that's a pretty good way to downplay it. That's super necessary in a place where all the payloads on every side of the mountain in what we call a smaller earthquake happens. Now, the Tamari nuclear disease factory, power plant, is located there. And the 2018 earthquake is located where the X is to. So it's not very far from the nuclear power plant. That makes sense? Okay. Don't worry, we're not through it yet. I'm not sure why that one's due. I can't remember. What else? Let's come back here. Oh, that was a different earthquake, right, in 2026. Dina, January the 5th, which was the 2-year anniversary almost of the Ishikawa earthquake just up the coastline from the... So this fault line on that coastline is telling us they shouldn't have nuclear power plants. You can see it up there in the corner. Don't worry about it. Okay, so back to the Niigata, the most northerly section of Japan. And so when you see that landslide, that's impressive, right? But when you step back, you got to realize what's going on. Look up in the top corner. Look, like these pictures don't even do it justice. On top of that, of how much it has happened to all these mountains, because they're on tectonic plates. So stupid place to have nuclear power, nuclear fuel pools, nuclear reactors, anything nuclear. Sort of rip that country apart. But most people have no concept, if not all the people that will watch my videos that are new, have no concept that that has happened in Japan before. It's just 2018, right? Registered at 6.7 magnitude. Most people worldwide just yawns when you hear 6.7, even if they're pretty astute on earthquakes. Ugh, who cares? 6.7. But I've never seen that kind of damage anywhere else before in an earthquake. Have you? Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there? Just nod if you can hear me. I fixed it, call it, that's right. I did. I have my system, I can wave my hand and it will actually trigger this page to click back and forth. And so all I gotta do is go. That happens. Now I'm faking it this time, but I actually have a whole. I can have my hand up here to do one thing, put my hand over there to do another thing, hand over here to do another thing, hand over here, both hands on my head to do something else. Raise my hands up, it'll do something else. Because I can do a lot of weird stuff. I am weird. Thank you. That didn't quite come out the way I wanted it. Let's keep going here. I gotta get after it. Forget about that stuff. That don't matter. Look at this picture here. As far as you can see in the background, all the mountains have lost their payloads, on all sides for most of it, right? That's incredible. Most people never heard of that earthquake. Oh, there was no earthquake, then. You're a lawyer. Well, that's the best thing can happen, is there's no earthquake. Nobody knows there's a power plant that had a massive earthquake in proximity to it. It was so bad it dropped the payloads of all the mountains. It's not a story you want to be bragging about for the nuclear industry. It doesn't like that story. They don't like me, I can tell you that much. Like, have you seen earthquakes like that? There's nothing safe in Japan. Japan is built on tectonic plates. And just let me bring up a quick visual of, because there's two earthquakes that happened. One happened yesterday and one happened today. And I would imagine the majority of people don't even know there was a massive earthquake in Japan yesterday. Don't feel bad. You're not supposed to know. Unless you're out there prowling all the time, you'll never know. I don't even know. I'm so busy. I was supposed to be doing a show tonight. Let me show you something. So over there at the bottom, Dana, can't you just move over to put your finger there? No. Okay, I'm going to do it for you, but don't make me do it all the time. So right here, see, let me get right here. Right there, that's where the earthquake was too yesterday. That fault line, the Eurasian plate and North American plate, that took out Shika plant, a nuclear power plant, which was right here. There was 100 kilometers of that coastline rose up and became unusable to 19 communities. So the boats went high and dry. Rose up 13 feet for quite a long ways offshore, so the harbors were dried out. The epicenter was up here. They didn't send in rescue teams for weeks and weeks and weeks because they got no helicopters in Japan or hovercrafts or anything like that. They just couldn't do it. It's too bad. They wanted to go there. There was experts from all around the world. They wanted to fly in. They had their own helicopters. Japan didn't have to supply any. Even Americans had to stood down. Americans would usually bring in just food, rescue all kinds of people off roofs and everything else, right? Nope. They had a tsunami, like a massive tsunami, and the earth lifting up 13 feet for 100 kilometers saved them. So God, it was like a God thing where it rose up and saved everybody from the ocean. Not everybody, but most people. So right around right here is where they had, or right here, Nagano. I think it was right around here or something. That's coming up in a moment. If I'll shut up long enough, which is right on the fault line. The fault line runs right up between that island up there and the Wagarini, or whatever you pronounce it, point of the Noto Peninsula. So when you hear me talking about Noto, it'll come up. I'll show you again when it's coming up. That's the Noto Peninsula. That's Ishikawa Prefecture. Now, the earthquake done damage all the way down there, all the way over to Niigata, where there's a nuclear power plant. There was over 6,000 homes and businesses destroyed by liquefaction, where the water came up through the earth and made it unstable, and the buildings tipped and tumbled and tore apart because of that. Okay, let me come back to that story. They make life so hard for us all the time, don't they? They always got to give us a hard time. $286. Hang on. I'll come back to that in a minute. Back up to this guy, that guy. No, I didn't go far enough. There. Right there. Yeah, we covered that. We covered that. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't get everything. It's slow sometimes, eh? Not much I can do about it. It's just there's so much in each of these stories that you got to be aware of to appreciate the story. So there's 4 people put their name on that story. If it's a story about Fukushima, there'll be no names underneath it. Authorities have warned, because they're usually written by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the media makes the money by publishing the stories. Authorities have warned residents in northeastern Japan to prepare for a even larger earthquake with a magnitude of 7.7. So why are they using 7.7 when they used the Shindu scale, not the Richter scale? Because it's not convenient for them right here, right? 7.7 quake struck off the coast of Iwate on Monday, triggering a tsunami across a broad swath of area. It was 80 centimeters hit across on the Pacific side, on North American side. From 182 municipalities, and a special advisory from Hokkaido, which is the most northerly island, to Chiba, which is south, right alongside of Tokyo. Should be on alert, ready to evacuate. But if you can't stand up, how are you going to evacuate? If even just a level 3, which is like a 5 on the Shindu scale, which is equal to an 8.4 on the international scale, not confusing at all. It's very simple. Pay attention. Should be on alert and ready to evacuate at any moment. Don't get caught on the toilet like that other guy. Residents have been urged to reconfirm their evacuation plans, including escape routes, which could be torn apart. Bridges could be dropped, inoperable. Roads could be torn apart. Like, have you seen Shika pictures? Wow. There's communities in Shika where they couldn't get to for over 3 weeks. Yeah, they got helicopters, but they didn't feel like it. They'll be okay. It's only winter. Yeah, they got no power, no food, no water, no nothing, no medical care, but they'll be okay. They can wait at least 3 weeks. The story of Shika will never be told. Residents have been urged to confirm which was a major earthquake in January 1st, 2024. We covered it for 30 days. Did I mention that? For 30 days and 30 nights. Sailing Earth Atlantic. Spider. On the shore, and the whole crew went frantic. Residents have been urged to reconfirm their evacuation plans, including escape routes and ways of communicating with the family. So in Japan, they like to get the oldest child gets on a mountain, and he has a bunch of flags, and he'll hold up a flag for A and another one for B, and then they spell out their messages. Okay, I made that up. But it could be true. You don't know. I don't know. We can't prove them not true. Residents were urged to reconfirm their evacuation plans, including their old shit plant. Monday's quake struck at a depth of 30 kilometers, 100 kilometers off the coastline. That's so unusual to get both of them in the same story. It's usually you get one or the other, latitude or longitude. Registered a lower 5 on the Japanese seismic scale to 7, which runs from 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. It's not like the international scale, 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, all the way to 10, which is 100. Japan's scale is 14. So it's meant to misrepresent the intensity and enormity and the implications of a quake described, which, like everybody, there's an international, we all have the same clock. International, we all have the same metrics for measurements. International, like we have a lot of these things, but not Japan. No, not Japan. Nobody, even Japan is incapable of understanding the danger they're putting themselves in by misrepresenting that. Registered a lower 5 in the Jap scale of 7 in some parts of different prefectures. The other, like, it was a lot more than that in other places, but there was no damage, despite that these earthquakes always cause, like, damage of the level of, say, 1,000 schools had insurance claims, for instance, and 7,000 or 10,000 homes have insurance claims. This one, no damage anywhere, everything was great. There was somebody in Tokyo fell down, broke their arm, you know, and then the others halfway across the country, but there was no damage. Why should it read damage? Bloop, bloop. So this is very unusual. They should get like a prize. We should send them a free hat or T-shirt or something. So you got to take 7 divided into 10, and you 1.428, so 1.43. You multiply that by whatever their version of 1.52, 2.5. So 1.52. So if it's a lower number, you can call it 7 to a 7.5. If it's a upper 7, then it's a 7.5 to a 8. Not confusing at all. You just got to go with the flow, man. So that earthquake of a lower 7 on the Richter scale would have been a 7.8. Well, 7.8 is everybody will agree that's a significant earthquake. And so half the country, you're looking at half the country was under advisories because they're expecting the tectonic plates to go boop. When that happens, that's why they had a tsunami. It wasn't much of a tsunami, but because the tectonic plates had moved. So if you have an earthquake out here, say right here, there's not going to have a tsunami. If you have an earthquake up there, you're not going to have a tsunami. If you have an earthquake on the tectonic plates where you're displacing the water, because right, the induction, the slipping of the tectonic plates, the continental plates, you displace water for very long distances, 400, 500, 600 miles, and it's instant. And so that creates a wave that travels 500, 600 miles per hour. And as it gets to shallow water, because it's going so fast, it will rise up. And it will do enormous damages because of those speeds, right? So here's your metrics. The orange was an upper 5. So that's like an 8.2 or something. And the yellow, which is a lower 5, is still a 7.7, say, right? So all that yellow was a 7.7. So there was no damage, though, from a 7.7 on land. We're not talking about the ocean, we're talking about land, right? These are the levels it was on land, but there was no damage, despite there's always damage at lower earthquakes. And these are high earthquakes. So you see, this is not the projection, this is the damage that was done. Now let me bring up the Big Shot calculator. I apologize, because sometimes I use these weird voices because I don't want to be cursing and swearing too much. So we're going to go with that orange pecker right there, upper 5. Upper 5. So that I'm going to call it orange, like a shitty brown orange. It's an upper. Let me explore upper. So upper is, say, a 5.9. So 5.5 to a 5 to a 6. So we're going to multiply a 5.9 by 1.428 or 1.43. Let's do that. That's good. Like, throw everything into the wind here and just throw caution to the wind. That's an 8.4, 7 or 3, 7 or 8.44. But maybe it's a 6 because it's an upper 5, right? So does that make a big difference on the international scale? So 1.428, 1.4, we'll do 1.43 trick again, and multiply it by a 6, and you got 8.6, 8.58, 8.6. A pretty big earthquake, mister. You gonna agree with that? Anybody agree? Anybody doubt what I'm saying? So just bear with me. I'm gonna zoom in there. I can do better. Have some faith in me. So there's an incredible amount of people live there, right there. There was an 8.6 earthquake. That's an 8.6. There was no damage anywhere, except for Tokyo. That's ground zero. That's ground zero. But over there in Tokyo, a couple of people fell down and broke their arms. But there was no damage at ground zero or at the most shaking intensity. Now, even in the fives, all these fives, which is the yellow, and then there's the light yellow, and it's really hard to to tell the difference between, which extended all the way up onto Nagano Prefecture, the island up there, in two places. And what was the yellow? Look at the two different colors, the lower and, so a 4, which is an upper, they're showing you, and then a lower 5. Okay, that's the yellow. So all of that yellow, let me make that a bit smaller. So everything you're seeing there is yellow. And then you can kind of see on the east side of Japan was the lower. You can see that the Shika nuclear, the Noto Peninsula, was also an incredible amount of activity. Da, 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 da. All right, so let's do lower 5. Was it lower 5? Yeah, lower 5. Okay. For a huge part of that country of 125 or so million people. So 1.428. It's not 1.428, Dana. I want to see that number, though, but it's not a 1.428, whatever it is. I'll do that again here. 1.428, which is the Shindu scale. Multiply it by a lower 5, which is, say, a 5.4. When it comes to Japan, might as well err on the high side because, when you're looking at all of that yellow, that's huge amount of the country, it's actually higher than that, right? It misses the point of what you're trying to do is warn people. So then you multiply it by 5.4. Let's call it, because we could call it a 5.5, but we're going to call it a 5. Well, we should call it a 5.5 actually, because it covers such a big chunk of the country. So that's a 7.8. So you had an 8.4. 8.4 was the shitty orange-brown up there. And 7.8 was the yellow on the west side, or the east side. And on the west side, which is towards Russia, North Korea, South Korea area, and the Japan Sea is on the other side. It was still like a 7 earthquake. The 3, see, that doesn't look like no big shot, right? Let's do that right quick. Because why not? I just want to give you an idea, but there was no damage. That's the biggest earthquake we've seen on land in prefectures in quite a while. There was no damage. The smaller earthquakes, massive damage. 5,000 homes got insurance. 1,000 schools had got insurance for damage to the schools. Okay, so 1.428, multiply it by upper 3, because everything down below this is, we're going to call it an upper number. So a 3.7, let's call it a 3.7. You're going to multiply it by, because you got the Japanese makes it more work for you. See, 3.7. That's still a significant earthquake. That's still a 5.2 earthquake. In the blue. So you had a 5.2 in the blue, a 7.8 in the yellow, and a 8.4 in the shitty brownish orange. Does that make sense to everybody? Make you all warm and fuzzy inside. That brings us back to the other question. Does Japan have a history of covering up earthquake damages at nuclear power plants? There's no resistance to that tonight. Okay, let's keep going. Ah! They're covering nuclear. I gotta stop talking in that voice. Like, the reason I talk in that voice sometimes, not very often sometimes, is because it's insane that we're having this conversation, that we have to come out and pretend that an earthquake of huge magnitudes done no damage anywhere, except for on the sun maybe, or maybe the damage was done on Mars, not in Japan. It was done somewhere else, but because that's what happens with those types of earthquakes, but not in Japan, right? Apologize here. I'll just take a second here to compose myself. Some more Grey Poupon, please. Tokyo and its vicinity where buildings swayed for several minutes. Okay, so buildings swayed in Tokyo, way up there, but the earthquake was down there. So nothing swayed down there. No damage, except for Tokyo. Tokyo was hit with a lowest, like a 2.6 on the Shindu scale. So you wonder why I don't go crazy sometimes? It's because I suck my thumb at night. That's why. I live in a world of nut jobs. The quake triggered an 80-centimeter tsunami at Kuji Port, Nagano Prefecture, which could rise up several feet easily. If you're on the beach, it could sweep you to sea. Waves were also forecast to arrive at other locations across a wide swath of the prefecture's coast, but there's no damage anywhere. Shook the shit out of Japan in Fukushima Prefecture. People couldn't stand up, but there was no damage. There's no reports of any damage anywhere. Nothing. No damage anywhere. La 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 la. Right. It's pretty crazy we're having this conversation, huh? La la la. Here we go again. So across many prefectures, 172,000 people were given evacuation orders today. The quake initially triggered a tsunami, under which waves are forecast to reach 3 meters, which is a pretty big tsunami, 3 meters. So, the tectonic plates, this was the tectonic plates. And that's why they have a special advisory, because it's on that fault line of the tectonic plates. The alert was downgraded to an advisory later in the evening, with the maximum forecast height lowered to 1 meter. Calling on people to remember 3/11, but don't remember Fukushima. Remember the earthquake, not Fukushima. Tsunami evacuate flashed on NHK in English. Don't turn back. People get complacent now because it doesn't happen. By and by, they'll be like, ignore it, and that's when the tsunami is going to come in, right? Should be on alert for more strong quakes over the next week, especially the next 2 or 3 days. Every minute of the next 2 or 3 days is capable of dropping again. And because it was such a violent earthquake that shook half the country, that's half the country. And the yellow was a 7.8 on the Richter scale, and the blue was a 5.72 or something like that. The orange, dirty brown or whatever the color you're looking at, was an 8.4 on the Richter scale. But they don't use Richter scale only when it's more convenient. So half the country shook, rattled, shaked, rattled, and rolled. There was no damage anywhere except for in Tokyo. Okay. I don't believe you, but okay. No abnormalities were reported at crippled Fukushima, number 1 and 2 plants. Let's look at Fukushima. Do they look crippled or destroyed? I can't tell the difference. I don't know what the difference is. Is there a difference between crippled and missing and totally annihilated? Don't worry, though. It doesn't. They put contraptions over it and then told you they got all the fuel-added reactors at the top of the buildings that don't exist. These were 190-story buildings. This is what they should look like. Well, they should look like that one there, right? Which is right between reactor 1, reactor 2, and reactor 3, and reactor 4. That's reactor 2. That's totally melted down, liquefied down deep into the earth, split the earth open in 6 places where the emissions were 10 sieverts an hour coming out of the ground, which will melt your organs in about 3 minutes. And you'll sit down and excrete them, and then you'll fall over dead. That was 36 reactor cores. So the fact that they, underneath these beautiful contraptions, they still look like this. Those contraptions don't physically touch the buildings because clearly they'll fall apart, right? So there was lulled people into complacency. And you won't see that picture anywhere else, this picture. We got lucky and there was a high-quality picture released. And being a scavenger I am, I was able to extrapolate incredible documentation from that single picture. The JMA also said observed a level 3 of what's called a long-period ground motion, a seismic wave, different duration. This is different than the Shindu scale, that lasts for a long time in Akita Prefecture. That lasts for a long time. Seismic waves of different durations that last for a long time. Now, a level 3 doesn't sound too bad, but you can't stand up. Unless you're hanging on something, but you're not really standing up, you're hanging on to something. Is defined as shaking that makes it hard for people to remain standing. Like if you're a fisherman, you're used to the boat always doing this motion. You can kind of keep your balance. It ain't no fun, and it lasts for a long time. So it's not like it's just a couple of seconds. You could be stood up there for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, trying to hang on. There's no damage though. It shook the shit. As sure as I'm sitting here right now, I shook that half the country, but there was no damage. Because nuclear is clean and green. And one that makes rolling furniture move uncontrollably, while furniture that is unsecured may topple over. So if your rickshaw was left outdoors, it probably ran away on you, is what they're saying. I keep mine tied on in case it tries to wander me personally, but... So Akita is on the west side of Japan, in the Sea of Japan, facing Russia and North Korea. Okay. The earthquake was on the other side, but because I'll show you actually. So, what's the date on this one? April the 18th, 2026. Late April 18th, 2026. Is the next story after this, right? So these numbers, upper, lower, are on a magnet. Now 7 doesn't go 7.5 and then 8. It's just 7, right? Stops at 7. Strong quake shakes northern Nagano Prefecture. This was a day and a half before, right there. And you got the same kind of scales, so to speak, right here. And see the orange? That's on land. That's an 8.4 on land. There was no damage there either. That's amazing. Only in Japan could that happen. That could never happen anywhere else. We should all move to Japan. Japan's the safest country on the planet. You can have massive earthquakes, no damage. Yeah, you can't stay on the toilet when it's happening, but you can get back on after. Now that is right on the tectonic plates, which is the Eurasian plate and the North American plate. That dotted line is running all the way down to X marks the spot. That X is down just below the dotted line right there. That's the tectonic plates, which runs right through the country of Japan. Not confusing, just stupid. So the X, which is in this case an upper 5, 5.9 is appropriate. It's a land earthquake, which is the worst, is an 8 point, but there's no damage. Hundreds of thousands of people there, they had no damage, no reports of any damage, same as, now what's interesting about that earthquake is it's not very far from the new nuclear power plant, Niigata. I always have a lot of fun when I'm doing these shows. I don't know why. Maybe I'm sick. Maybe I need help. I need help. I haven't got my phone here tonight. This will be the night somebody calls in. I can't hear them. We didn't put our number up there tonight, did we? Just hang on. My phone's just outside the studio door here. I'll be right back. In fact, I'm going to put a song on because I got to get some more of my special water. It's called Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan? Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan? And I'll be back before the song is over, but that gives me an extra minute because I got to scratch my back on the door frame out there. I'll be right back. This is about 6,000 people charged with sedition for protesting a nuclear plant in India. The links are underneath that to that story. This is really good, by the way.
I stood by the shore and I said what I thought about Kudankulam near our homes. I spoke of fish and children at night. They said I was speaking against the state. I was not asking for anything grand. I only asked what came from that plant. They called it sedition for saying those things. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I say too much? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why call my worry sedition? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I step out of place? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why answer me with handcuffs? They spoke of progress, they spoke of pride. They spoke as if nuclear was care. I spoke of water, boats and nets. They answered like I should not be there. Now I am wiser, now I am calmer. Now I repeat what what they told me is true. If someone gets sick, it must be something else. Nuclear saves lives, or so they say. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I say too much? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why call my worry sedition? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I step out of place? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why charge me and put me in handcuffs? Now I get it, now I understand. Nuclear is clean. Now I get it, now I understand. It was only me. Now I get it, now I understand. I was making trouble then. Nuclear is kind and clean. That's what I say now here. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? I only spoke of our shores. If nuclear is so clean and safe, why am I quieter now? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan?
Okay.
I only
You want to hear that
asked what
song?
it means.
It's called Did I Hear Secrets to Pakistan at James Lucid's site on YouTube. One of my favorite all-time songs. 6,000 people charged with sedition for protesting a disease factory. They were told was a factory. They weren't told they were building a nuclear plant. They were told they were building a factory and there'd be jobs for the locals. And that if they sold their land cheap and gave away their water, they might get jobs there. When it turned out to be a nuclear plant and they poisoned the water and they complained, they charged over 6,000. It was 10,000 originally, but it's been updated apparently to 6,000 plus people charged with sedition. Welcome to nuclear. That was nuclear on a good day. Okay, back to the madness. Mic check. Back to the madness. So you had an 8.4 earthquake, and there was no furniture broke. There was nothing. There wasn't a little fledgling thrown out of his nest. There was no damage anywhere. Nothing. There was nothing. Now, people couldn't stand up or walk or anything like that when there was long durations and everything else there also. So you have an 8.4 earthquake, no damage there, which happens to be in proximity to the new nuclear power plant in Niigata. It would be an absolute tragedy if there was damage there, because that would mean that Niigata wasn't safe to have a nuclear power plant. You should close it down immediately. Can't have that, so no damage. And there was only a upper 5 earthquake on the Japan scale. They don't say Shindu scale of 7, they say Japan Shindu scale. Upper 5, that's not bad, that's upper 5. There was no tsunami risk associated with the quake because it was on land, stupid. They put the word tsunami to invoke 2011, right? No matter where the earthquake's to. If you have an earthquake on the mountain, don't worry, there's no tsunami. Okay, people, it was crazy, I was panicking. The slime bags, eh? An industry of slime bags. Now I get it, now I understand. Nuclear is clean. I can't listen to everybody laughing sometimes, despite the fact that it's incredibly sad. Hi, Dana. Dana's your moderator. Here we go again. Does Japan have a history of covering up earthquake damage at nuclear power plants? Yeah, that's been. How come they got 12 views and 28 likes? Well, it's better than having it the opposite, which happens quite often. The epicenter was in the prefecture's northern area, striking at a depth of 10 kilometers, give or take a mile or two. Yeah, the quake, and so it sounds like, I know the presentation is not the typical presentation where everything is articulated, because we're talking about something that is nuts. We have massive earthquakes all over the place. There's no damage, nothing. No landslides, no rocks tumbling, nothing. No dishes falling off shelves, no supermarket pictures of chaos. You have long duration shaking. That would make pretty good videos. People, Jesus Christ, holy fuck. Oh, God damn it. Oh, holy fuck. Just stop. Somebody stop this fucking train wreck. But there's no damage. An intensity of 4. It registered at 3 in the city, and every center of the prefecture north, starting at a depth of 10 kilometers. So it struck at a depth of 10 kilometers. It was an 8.4 shaken on the Richter scale. It was everything but no damage. Everything else that happened, there was no damage. There was landslides and car crashes, roads tore apart, but there was no damage to report. Particularly at Niigata nuclear power plant. Danny, you're laughing at your own jokes. I got no choice. I gotta laugh at my own jokes. Nobody else laughing here to laugh at my joke. This one registered at 3, hidden 2 hours later, but not 3, but 8.4. They're talking about the lower 3, right? You see the blue, that's what they're talking about over there. Not the light blue, but the dark blue. So how can you have an 8.4, right, and then only have a 2 alongside of it? How does that actually work? Because we had an 8.4 and upper 5 there yesterday, today. All around it was a 7.8. Except for so this is a day and a half ago. So there's damage all around the orange piece of shit there, but there's no damage around that orange. That's an 8.4 on land. That's an 8.4 out in the middle of the ocean. Does an 8.4 damage rather on land out 70 miles off the coast, 70 kilometers off the coastline. But right at ground zero, and which is not a very big prefecture, in those surrounding prefectures is only a 2. No conflicts there whatsoever. Like even 1,000 miles away, it was a 5.7 today. A day and a half ago, right alongside of it, it's about a 4. So it doesn't make any sense. That was today's earthquake. You see the damage. And that was out in the ocean. You have the same massive upper 5, which I'm pretty sure was a lot higher than that. And surrounding prefectures got no damage. Am I crazy? Like, am I crazy to think this way? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Is that why I only got 16 viewers? Because I sold secrets to Pakistan? Okay. I might play that song at the end. Who knows? Play the whole thing, because I didn't play the whole thing. And It should be heard. The whole bloody thing, over and over and over. It's such a great song. Because that's the propaganda. And it's so subtle. And the industry is cursing James Lucid because he produced a song like that and they didn't. Because they would have used it for something else, right? Did I sell secrets to Kazakhstan? Should be my song. Or did I sell secrets to the Marshall Islands? Nuclear is not clean and green. Clean. Oh, I get it. Oh, I understand. It was only causing trouble. Such a sad song, too, see? Imagine being charged with sedition in one of the most impoverished countries, in a country where there's 1 million children die of starvation every year, but they have some of the most nuclear weapons in that part of the world, the most expensive nuclear weapons. But 1 million children die every year of dysentery, diarrhea, pneumonia, and starvation. And you cure most of that with salts, like 15, 20 pennies each. Would have prevented those illnesses and diseases. They were given no help, nothing. No nutrition, nothing at all, only GM food. They sent them GMO food, which bloated their stomachs out, right? So an 8.4 on ground, right, not very far from the Niigata nuclear power plant, which just opened up, was a big deal. It was in the media every day. Japan's going back to nuclear. You got to buy stocks. You got to fucking do it. You got to do it now. But yeah, we have an earthquake today, and it's chaos in all directions around it. But not the one a day and a half ago, which happens to be close to that new nuclear disease factory. It's quite telling. It's very, very, a magnitude 5.0 earthquake measured an upper 5, so we're over the Niigata, not the Niigata, but the Nagano. Yeah, Nagano Prefecture. Which is right across, right on tectonic plates. The tectonic plates runs right through Nagano, right through that X. Runs right through that X, right through the Nagano, where that X is to in Nagano. That X is exactly where the tectonic Eurasian plates are running through. Niigata is where the nuclear power plant, the Ishikawa Prefecture, just below that arrow, is the Shika plant where they had an earthquake in the basement. We're going to get to that. If we can survive this. I was kind of losing my mind when I was putting this together today. Right, I was like, how do I even tell this story tonight? Well, I did, right, eventually, but you feel schizophrenic when you say, look, that's an 8.4 on the International Richter scale, the X up there, the brown stuff, but yet that was a day and a half ago. But today's still an 8.4, but everything around it is massive earthquake for long, like 1,000 and 1,400 miles away. It's still pretty nasty. But you have one on land, 10 kilometers deep, not 1,000 kilometers deep, or 500, or 200, or 100, or 50, or 25, but 10 kilometers deep, right at the surface. It should shake the living shit. You'll be going like this for fucking 2 minutes straight. I'm not kidding you. You have a headache when it was stopped. I got a headache. It's disgusting. And all of these laws are to protect the nuclear industry. Striking at a depth of 10 kilometers. Upper 5 in the city of Omachi and a lower 5 in the city of Nagano. In the city. It was an 8.4. There's no damage. Barely registered a snot on the snotty scale. Basements are fine, yeah. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So this is, I should have called the show tonight something else. The earthquake that never happened, that actually happened, but actually officially never happened. No damage in an 8.4 earthquake. That should have been the headline tonight, should it? That should have been the poll tonight. Should there be damage in an 8.4 earthquake on land? In the city. Right in the city. So a lower 5, which say is 7.9, in the city of Nagano. So right in the city. It was an 8.4. Well, that whole prefecture is shown an 8. Not the whole prefecture, but half the prefecture is 8.4. The closest half to the Shika nuclear power plant and the Niigata nuclear power plant. Another quake, this one registering a 3 hit in Omachi about 2 hours later around 3:30 p.m. Because the reason it hit there is because it's right smack on the tectonic plates, right? The Eurasian plates, the North American plate. See, and I didn't make up the laws. I'm trying to tell you the truth. And because I'm trying to explain to you how it actually works, what we're talking about, I'm the bad guy. I've been charged with being anti-nuclear. Little phlegm going on there because I'm drinking too much water. I got special water. I got chlorine dioxide water. It's 2 parts. You can buy it on Amazon. That's where I bought it. For one. There's 2 bottles, 1 drop and 1 drop. And you put them in a cup and let them activate. So one's chlorine dioxide, the other one's an enzyme, and it'll activate it. So it'll turn yellow and it'll smell really strong. Then you mix it with water in a gallon of water. If you haven't got a gallon, try to get 2 liters. And then whenever you get half a glass, put half a glass of other water in there to finish diluting it, right? And that kills the parasites dead in your body. And I know the protocol. Now, you go and look up studies on chlorine dioxide, you won't find a single one. It doesn't exist. It's used to kill all the parasites in the woods, in the water, in the woods. Say you're surviving and you got to drink out of potholes or dirty areas. That's how you mix your water, with the chlorine dioxide. And that'll kill everything in that. All the parasites, all the little worms, everything else in that will get killed. And you wait for like 10 minutes for everything to die, and then you can drink it and it won't hurt you. It doesn't... And when you put it in your body, then what are you doing? You're doing the same thing. And so for like cancers, the doctors that were actually brave enough to talk about it, they were filling up their containers with water, and you want a dark container, so because sunlight will make it evaporate. You can't use steel because that'll make it evaporate. It'll react with the chlorine dioxide and denigrate it very quickly. So keep it in a dark container, and for their protocol, they drink it. They sip it all day long. They always got 1 or 2 or 3 of these containers, right? I'll fill them up 3/4 and then add a little bit of ice into it. That helps dilute it a bit more, right? And they'll sip it all day long, day in, day out. And they do that as preventive medicine. They never get sick. And they're dealing with hundreds of patients every day. And they don't catch any kinds of flus or stuff like that. It's incredible. But it's also, right, protects your body from the parasites that... Anyway, back here. So the Nagano earthquake a day and a half ago, they got no attention that I meant to cover, but I didn't cover because I wanted to do a show last night on the FOIA report, because I've been working on that like a slave all weekend. I took the skidoo away, took the boat motorcycles out, and got them out, fired them up and got them out for a ride. not a long ride, right? Like 10 or 15 kilometers on each one. It was a nice day, and we had a bit of rain the day before, washed the salts off the road. It's going to snow now this week. That's okay. Okay, I'm still hung up on this, right? That how can you have an earthquake, an 8.4 on the Richter scale, which is what upper 5 is, right? The orange, we'll call it orange this time, with the X anyway. Let's move past that. Can I move past stuff like that? Probably not. Authorities warned of similar quakes continuing to hit the area. So you can see Nagano over by the 406 there. Well, that's not very far from the Nagano nuclear plant or the Shika nuclear plant out there on the Noto Ishikawa Prefecture. Where that Earl is to is where, just below that is where the Shika nuclear plant is to. And Niigata is where the Niigata was at one time the world's biggest nuclear power plant. There's only one reactor working there. So the earthquake that they had on January the 1st, 2024, well, you see the epicenter up there? Well, that's right here. Now, they also had a tsunami came through there, too. The coastline rose up for 100 kilometers, 13 feet in the air, and dried out 19 harbors. Dried them out forever. Right, because the earth rose up 13 feet for way offshore, and those harbors, boats were just lifted right out of the water, and they had to figure out eventually how to go out and get their boats and bring them back into the water. In Suzu, a town of about 5,000 households, 90% of the houses may have been destroyed, and that's not Suzu right there. According to the mayor, 90% of the houses of 5,000 households were destroyed. This went on for, well, we couldn't cover it forever. We were trying to find out. They registered at the highest levels of 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scales in the town of Shika. Ojima was ground zero. Suzu was right alongside of it. The highest registered the highest levels of 7, which is a 10 out of a 10 on the Richter scale. It's 100 out of 100 on the Richter scale. The Richter scale is 1 to 100 in increments of 10. So 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 1.10. And then it's 2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, all the way up to 10, right? So that's 100. Japan's scale is 1, 1.1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 6, 6.5, 7. So it's on a scale of, I'm sorry, did I do that right? 1, 1.2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 6, 6.5, 7. I'm sorry, it's on a scale of 11. 1 to 11. Where the Richter scale is 1 to 100. I don't know why I say 14. I've done that before. I get stupid sometimes, because this will make you fucking stupid if you're not careful. So you see the prefecture over in the corner where it says prefecture with an Earl hanging down from it? That's the Shika nuclear plant. So you can see Shika over there, Nanao. Suzu was at the top. You see why Jimmy... Oh, Suzu was the ground zero. I screwed up, eh? Central, this is 2024, January 6th. No problem at the local nuclear plant. You're going to love this one. According to the owners or the operators, the Hakuruki electric power company running nuclear power plant Shika, which is closed down since Fukushima, but the fuel pools were still full of decades of reactor cores. The 7.6 magnitude quake registered an upper 5 of a maximum of 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale, beneath the number 1, so an 8.4, beneath the number 1 on the Richter scale, beneath the number 1 reactor Not the number 2 reactor, but the number 1 reactor of the plant in Shika. That makes no sense. Now, at the same time, you had Norway, you had Canada, you had the United States military, you had Bahrain, you had Britain, you had France. All of them wanted to send in dogs, search and rescue teams, specialists. They were going to fly them into Japan. And they had helicopters. They were going to fly them right out to ground zero, and they wouldn't let them go out there. No! They said, we got this. And so by day 10, by January the 10th, which is day 10, my poll was typically for the next couple of days, should Japan use helicopters on the Noto Peninsula? I know that sounds crazy, but people haven't been allowed to go in there. Now, I'm sure there's nothing to do with the nuclear power plant, which had an earthquake of 8.4 in the basement on the Richter scale. Not reactor 2, but not reactor 1 at the Shika nuclear power plant. Japan NRA orders to probe on the quake damage at the Shika nuclear power plant. Japan Times, the mouthpiece of Japan. That's the Shika nuclear plant it wasn't January 11th, right? This video story is from January 11th. That picture, they didn't use helicopter out there, so it couldn't be from January 11th. They never started using helicopters until around January 16th or 17th, and that wasn't anywhere near Shika. They never got into the community of Shika, I think, for 3 weeks. And there was no roads left in Shika. Everything was like some weird, bizarre Twilight Zone highways. According to the Hokuriku Electric Power nuclear plant, the quake measured an upper 5 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale at the basement of the number 1 reactor. At the basement of the reactor. We couldn't let anybody in there to verify. They actually sent in a news team. We caught that. And all they showed was the top of buildings. They didn't show any landscape because of terrorism laws. They only showed the very top 2 or 3 feet of the building and then the sky above it. Here's Shika. Looks good to us. Have a nice fucking day, George. Thanks, Tim. Let me bring up so upper 5. So to get the Richter scale, you got to divide 10 by 7, which is the Shindu scale. Only goes to 7. But that's not even right then, because their scale is only 1 to 11, where the international scale is even worse because it's 1 to 100. So it's much worse than what I'm showing you. So 1.42. That's how it works out to 1.43. When you divide it, just simple, right? Close enough. So you got to multiply it by an upper 5, which is a 6, but we're going to call it a 5.9. That's an upper 5. That's an 8.4. So in an you had an 8.4 earthquake in the basement of the number 1 reactor building, but not the number 2, which is right alongside of it, like 100 feet away. Because the tectonic plates are so precise, they carve a line, do they? No, it doesn't work that way. The whole site, not just the nuclear plant, but the whole site. You can see the 2 reactors up there. They're right alongside of each other. See the tall, skinny stacks? That's where they're venting the fuel pools all day. Because once you take the reactor out, it's still splitting atoms, but there's no containment. So you got to vent everything, otherwise you'll blow up the building. So guess who's eating and breathing and drinking that stuff? Everybody on the planet. So it's absurd to suggest that you had an upper 5 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale in the basement of the Shika. And then that brings us right back to the question of, does Japan have a history of covering up earthquake damage in nuclear power plants? If this story doesn't make you insane, hello everybody. How's everybody doing there? Glad to see we're all sticking on the topics. Editorial: effective Noto Peninsula earthquake response hinges on Great Hanshin earthquake lessons. There's no damage there either, Dana. The 39th anniversary of that earthquake. 6,000 lives. 630,000 homes were damaged. And that was the same earthquake they just had. However, in the following days, residents worked together to revive the city because the government was too busy partying on sake somewhere else. I'm not sure where that story was there. My apologies. Nevertheless, think about this statement here. That's right. Some affected areas, Ishikawa Prefecture, are not equipped to accept outside assistance at this time. So they were justifying why they wouldn't take help from international communities. Same for Fukushima, by the way. To Noto Peninsula. Nevertheless, some areas not able to take help. And what was the date on this story? That's why I got that story there, because that's January the 19th. They still wouldn't take help in the Noto Peninsula. Not because they had an earthquake in the basement of a reactor or anything like that. No, not at all. Therefore, they had not been receiving the support they so desperately need. 19 days later. I don't know if I've ever heard tell Japan is the most earthquake-ready country on the planet, but they couldn't help anybody even at day 19 up by the nuclear power plant, particularly to put a nuclear power plant. Now, they had 1,500 landslides, but I heard that Japan has helicopters. I heard Japan is the third most developed nation on the planet. I heard it's the most prepared planet for earthquakes on the planet. But for 19 days, people couldn't get their medications. They couldn't get medical help. They couldn't get food. They couldn't even come in and drop it at the, just like come in with the, because helicopters can do this. They can bring in a big pallet of food and generators and blankets and all kinds of water desalination or filtration facilities, and just lay it down anywhere in that community. Yes, the whole community is flat with an earthquake. They can still lay it there somewhere. There's still a spot. They're that good. They could actually do that. I know they could because I know they could. But not on the Noto Peninsula, where there was a massive earthquake of 8.4 on the Richter scale in the basement of the Shika nuclear disease nuclear power plant / nuclear disease factories. Therefore, they couldn't receive the help. Okay, well, it's just another day in the pro-nuclear whack job planet we live on. Survivors of the Japan's Noto earthquake still living in shelters 4 weeks later. 14,000 people, 43,000 homes were damaged. That's a pretty big earthquake. So it damaged 43,000 homes and an 8.4 earthquake in the basement of Shika nuclear power plant had no damage. But where there was less of an earthquake, not in people's basements, it destroyed 43,000 homes. Tremors, widespread liquefaction. There was 1,500 landslides. There was around 1,500 aftershocks. It was a 3,500 year old tectonic plates that ruptured. There's only slim possibility of most residents returning home. The earthquake in the basement, the fault line runs right through the Nagano Prefecture that had an earthquake a day and a half ago with 8.4 in the middle of Nagano City with no damage anywhere to be found. Nowhere. Nada. Japan, the place of miracles. That's what that place is. 500 people still in evacuation centers. 14,500 people. And they couldn't get anybody. There was no helicopter. They couldn't bring them any help because some places are not prepared to accept help. Because some places are not in / Noto Peninsula, right? See the red line up there, Noto Peninsula. Some affected areas / they put down Ishikawa Prefecture, but they were talking about, which is true, but they're actually alluding previously that it's the Noto Peninsula Pacific. I know what you're saying, Dana. Tomato, they're all the same. No, and no. Maybe. No, actually. So about a cutout of water. So they published this story here today. I said, okay, I'm going to get some stuff here. This is not the typical. No new abnormalities found at Fukushima Daiichi. No new abnormalities. These are massive sites, by the way. And under the covers, the buildings are a little bit fragile. Okay, well, they don't even exist. There's just stumps left. But there's no new damage to these structures. Or the Daini plant, for that matter. So, okay, so they got one sentence there. And after that sentence, there was no damage, no new abnormalities of Fukushima or Daini, so go away. So then they got blank page, scrolling down. All right, so they had another story, M.77 jolts northeastern Japan, tsunami advisory issued. And so they had lots to say about that. Oh, they had so much to say about that. They went on and on and on, they went on and on and on. But when it comes to nuclear plants, nothing happened. 80 centimeter tsunami was observed in Iwate Prefecture, the agency said. That's what you want to call them. A special, week-long, special alert, special covering, special 182 special municipalities and 7 special prefectures from Hokkaido to Chiba. Chiba, which is right by Tokyo. Oh, Tokyo. So Hokkaido, Hokkaido, Tokyo, Chiba. It's a special area. I'm special. I know what half of you are saying. Ain't very nice either. The other half, though, you're good. The quake at 4:52 p.m. Monday registered upper 5 on the Japs seismic intensity scale of several, and occurred at a depth of 19 kilometer. That's pretty shallow, baby. Tama was felt in parts of Tokyo, 1,000 plus miles away. Upper 5 is described as a level where people find it difficult to walk without holding on to whatever they're holding on to is going to be shaking like shit too, which is a 8.4 on the Richter scale. So that was probably okay. Like if I was in Japan, he said there's an 8.4 earthquake going to happen, I'd be like, pfft. If the Japs could do it, I could do it. Anything nuclear could do, geothermal can do better, and it can do it. It can actually do it. No abnormalities reported at the nuclear plants at the Fukushima Daiichi. So, shut up, fear-mongers. According to the operators, they're the last person that there's no incentive for them to tell you the truth. There's zero incentive for them to tell you the truth. There's no abnormalities at Fukushima. That's what they look like. They got to cover them so you can't see it. They said they got all the fuel at all the pools, so don't listen to Durnford. I wouldn't listen to me if I was me. I only provide a whole bunch of evidence. That don't mean anything anymore. It's stupid. Well, you don't need evidence for it. What do you need evidence for? It's crazy talk. I know, right? I'm old-fashioned. I like evidence. I think evidence brings something fresh to the conversation. I know that's madness, but... So, here's how this... You thought tonight so far wasn't stupid? You know nothing about this subject at all in that case. So there's 2 reactors, Medusa and Medusa. That was a plutonium mixed oxide reactor. That was non-reactor cores and non-reactor cores because the top of the buildings are where they kept is the repository for nuclear waste, nuclear fuel worldwide. Don't worry though, they put contraptions over it. So then they said, okay, now it's all good. This is what it looks like. It actually looks like that, but they put these contraptions over it. Nuclear meltdown. They built them off site and then assembled them with cranes and the homeless and the destitute, remote control cranes. As everybody knows, the homeless can't operate a crane, right? So they're remote control cranes. But the homeless and the destitute, if you see any humans in the picture, they died that week or that day. So I can't tell the difference. It does, because that looks remarkably the same. I don't see the big issue, Dana. I know, yeah. It's just the way it is. I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. So you get these two buildings in 2013. You put these contraptions over it, rather, in 2013. You won't see that picture anywhere else. I'll just zoom in on these buildings. So when you look at the debris right here, and you look at down into the building over there, the guts of it, you look at the guts of that building to your left. Look at that. Now, 150 feet above it looks like that. So who the fucking crazy one around here? Yeah. Clearly it's me, because I don't think it's real. I don't think they're really there, but everybody else does. So I'm a reject, because I think different. If you got headaches, take salt. Cure to a headache is salt. Works really fast too. So there was actually 4 reactor buildings, not 2. I was a little bit deceptive. I was trying to ease you into the truth here. There was actually 4 reactors, 36 reactor cores, and 8 fuel pools at the top of 4 of those buildings. They're all gone. Or you can say everything's best kind. I gotta go to the golf now. Go golfing because everything's great. Nothing to worry about here. Only the fear mongering from Durnford. I'm hated and ridiculed because I only provide documentation. I only talk about facts. I don't care about the law. Oh, I care about them. I'll take the law and like last night's video is a good example. If you're trying to understand Fukushima, you're new here. Go take a walk on the wall side and watch that presentation last night. That was actually pretty good. I was pretty lucid the whole time, eh? But I've been covering earthquake all day today, and my brain is messed up from that experience. So yeah, it looks like that. The buildings over it don't physically touch it because they would collapse right away, right? They would collapse right away if you put any weight on it. So these contraptions were built off-site, then reassembled. And officially, though, they got everything out of the fuel pools, everything out of the reactor cores, or well, they will. They're going to get to that. They already got the fuel pools, which were 190 feet up in the buildings, at the very top of the buildings. And there's the proof, right? They're above the fuel pool. They're at the very top of this 190-foot, 65-meter, 19-story building. Because everything is clean. Now I get it. 10-foot waves are possible. Oh! So I think the idea of the tsunami warning was to divert their attention away from from the earthquake the day before, yesterday, a day and a half ago, 2 days now, and then earthquake this morning in Japan, our time, which was a significant earthquake. But both of these were on tectonic plates. So you had the Eurasian plate, the North American plate, and then the Pacific plate, right, which is running north and south, and you had the east to west towards North America, tectonic plates, both rupture in a day and a half, 2 days. That's what just happened in Japan. You had both subinductions this is absurdness. So theoretically, they could have a 9-point earthquake right now as we're talking. There's nothing to stop it. You have a 3,500-year-old tectonic plate that was inactive until January 1st, 2024, which did enormous damage that I showed you there earlier, the hard way, because it's a hard story. It's a confusing story. It's so confusing. And I went back into my January 2024 folders because we've done something like 25 shows on Shika and the Ishikawa Noto Peninsula earthquake, and the opening up of the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates. right? Because Niigata is just a spit away, because in the scale of tectonic plates, Niigata is just right there. It's built on the tectonic plates, literally. And we know that in 2024, in January, when that Eurasian North American plates subinducted, that there was documentation of over 6,000 homes and businesses right alongside the nuclear power plant in the Nagano Prefecture that's currently just came online. One of them, reactors have come online rather, at a 6, had caused catastrophic liquefaction. From the earth shaking, the water comes up through the earth, and now the earth is no longer stable and able to, and that could happen at the Nagano Prefecture. And this is why both of these earthquakes were covered up yesterday and today. And they there's a 10-foot wave, so everybody's like, and then all the media rolled out. Remember those pictures I started off with of the major medias on YouTube coming out with the big waves coming in? That reinforced that narrative, see? Directed anybody that was paying attention to those particular videos, and they were sorely disappointed because that didn't happen. Right, so they're taking the wind out of people's sails, they get them hyped up, and then they drop them on their heads. So let me bring that up very quick, and make it easier for your sanity, hopefully. And that's why I have them there tonight, to remind myself the nuclear is clean. Dana, you're an asshole. Yeah, that's true. Ain't gonna deny that one. So, like, this is what showed up today on YouTube. That one, these are all major medias in different countries. And so people, of course, were going to click on them and be sorely disappointed. That was the actual Noto Peninsula earthquake 2024 right there. Same as this one. Japan issues tsunami and geo mirror now. You got a big tsunami coming in. There's a 10-foot tsunami. Means that could rise up now to 100 feet, right? And then people watched a whole bunch of these who don't know anything about nuclear and just said, don't care. And that's the effect. And they know that. They can predict that. They're very pleased with themselves. That was actual Shika. That's a Shika picture right there. Tsunami alert, evacuate now, tsunami alert, right? Big, bold pictures, incredible pictures. Devastating pictures, calling for it. In the media, they're calling for a 10-foot tsunami. And everybody knows, of course, that'll rise up as it comes to the coastline. And they're showing you these pictures. And that way, you don't talk about Niigata nuclear power plant or the Fukushima or the rest of them, right? In fact, Niigata, I don't think I mentioned a single time. Despite the fact that they had a massive earthquake on that, right on the east to the west tectonic plates ruptured a day and a half ago. And today was the south to the north. Tectonic plates ruptured on the east side of Japan. That's an incredible coincidence. First off, because the Nagano, or the Nagano earthquake a day and a half ago, that fault line hadn't ruptured until 2024 for 3,500 years. 3,000 to 4,000 years is what they like to say, right? So all of these major medias came out, like CNN, News 18, came out showing these devastating pictures of tsunamis and earthquakes, right? But there was no official damage. That don't make you schizophrenic, but does. Tsunami warning 10-foot waves were possible. And so anybody went on YouTube to look for any documentation, which a lot of people are doing, would have been very disappointed, right? But they show you that picture. 160,000 people fled their homes in Fukushima because of radiation spewed from the Fukushima Daiichi in 2011. There were 26,000 of them haven't returned. And then they say because they resettled elsewhere. And then they say, at the very last sentence, right? Their hometowns remains off limit as they have lingering concerns about radiation. The very, very last sentence, the very last one, the end of it, the last of the last of the last sentences. Because they resettled elsewhere. Japan earthquake with magnitude revised up to 7.7. 7.7. Evacuation orders issued for all these prefectures, including Fukushima. There's no damage at any nuclear power plants. How are you going to know? Because they're massive sites. But how can you even suggest for 1 second there was no more damage to these very fragile 15-year-old Wigner effect, radiation, gamma shines, alphas, neutrons, and beta effect, which breaks down the integrity of materials? There's no damage to that because they got to get the fuel out of the pool, out of the reactor cores in the near future, or in the far future. So they don't want to think about the sites at all, period. They allege they got all the fuel out of the pools 150 feet above these stumps, which is an incredible feat. Must have been pretty dangerous. What was it Arnie Gunderson said? Like a crushed pack of sugars. He was married to a spokesperson for the nuclear industry for over 20 years. He's a good guy. I always trust Gunderson. I can play videos of Gunderson telling you they went in to the reactor 4, TEPCO, and put structural supports under the number 4 fuel pool 150 feet above this stump here. You want me to do it? You call me a liar? Might as well, because I'm not going to do it. I've done it so many times. I'm thick of it. Rabbit. Report quake or seismic-like events in Fukushima, Japan. Issues huge earthquake warning after 7.5 magnitude tremor. A 7.5 magnitude is a huge earthquake, not a tremor. Right? You got tremor and earthquake in the same sentence. And they're doing that. They do that too. Same with the Shindu scale, right? To confuse you. Warning of an increased risk of an earthquake at magnitude 8 or stronger because the Eurasian North American tectonic plates, which were dormant for 3,500 years, have ruptured on January 1st, 2024, are now activated, and were activated yesterday, right? And wrecked the Nagano Prefecture with an 8.4 earthquake, upper 5 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale of 7. I'll make you hate me before the night is out, because I'm talking about these scales. That'll drive you nuts. It'll drive you nuts. It drove me nuts all day. The likelihood, and I was dreading doing the show tonight for this particular reason. Once I sit there, I'm okay, but I was dreading. I was like, I'd rather pull all the hair out of my head and sit there and try to tell this story tonight. The likelihood of a new huge earthquake occurring in relatively higher than normal. Yeah, because a 3,500-year-old tectonic plate has just become active, literally yesterday / 2 years ago, which is yesterday in the time frame of 3,500 years, right? And then the trench in the Pacific, 70 kilometers off the coastline, which took out Fukushima and 1,300 miles of coastline, had ruptured today. Now, that's not a good sign, and it ruptured in a spot they expected to rupture, because you had a big rupture in 2018 in the Nagano Prefecture. You had a big rupture in 2011 in Fukushima Prefecture. You had another couple in the last 5 years on the same tectonic plates. And now you have a dormant tectonic plate that runs right through the country, flattened who knows how many places, but officially there was no damage from any of it, anywhere. It's insane, right? I'm trying to tell the story. Oh, we're not getting there. Hang on. Oh, we're almost through, so might as well keep going. So you had the Eurasian plate, North American plate erupt a couple days ago. in Nagano. Which is at the bottom of that dotted line. The dotted line is the tectonic plates that had been dormant for 3,500 years until January the 1st. Right? And everybody's sleeping on that. And then the earthquake, today is off the coastline. The orange up there by the yellow and the blue is 8.4 earthquake. And you can see all around it. All around that is yellow, which is a 5.7 point. Let me do the math again. I forget now. Because Japan is using the Shindu scale, we got to convert that to the Richter scale, which is 1.428 for every one in the Shindu scale. So you got to multiply by upper 5, or lower 5, 5.5, because that's how it's a 7.8 earthquake in the yellow. And the brown up there is an 8.4 earthquake. But yesterday, they had an 8.4 in orange. That's the same scale they're using there, as we showed earlier. But towards the Nagano Ishikawa Prefecture, which is that spit of land up there. Now, that's right on the tectonic Eurasian, North American tectonic plates that have finally ruptured after 3,000, 4,000 years, But just not very far from that, the blue is a very low, modest type of earthquake. Right, but the orange up there is surrounded by yellow because you can't just go from a massive earthquake to a tiny earthquake right alongside of it. Right, and that's spread out over 1,000 miles today. But yesterday, it only spread out a few hundred miles. It's the same earthquake. And it's on land. And it's shallower. There's no damage because there's 2 nuclear power plants there, and they can't have not any confusion about this at all. There's zero confusion about this. We got another few minutes to go. Might as well tell the story. We're here. So let me find a headline. Okay. Put that right there. Let me come down to this one. They're so mad, eh? And we put that over here so that I can save it in my files for later when I want to bang my head into a wall, drive myself insane. And I needed that headline there to complete the stupid picture. I apologize for the madness. There's nothing I can do about it. That sure is pretty though, isn't it? No damage at any of these earthquakes. We had an earthquake that shook violently where people couldn't stand up for almost 1,000 miles. Not that one. Is it this one? No. Still back to that same story. To that one. And then one story left to go. We already got through that. Oh, we're through it, basically. One story. Here it is. Japan lifts a tsunami warning after 7.4 magnitude. Quake warns of more tremor. But they don't use the magnitude scale in Japan. They use the Shinto scale. Epicenter was 71 miles off Miyako City, located in the Ishikawa, or the Iwate Prefecture, province, depending who you're talking to. Class 3 long tremor in Tohoku. Rocked buildings in high-rise buildings all the way up into Tokyo. A 1,000 miles away. There was no damage in all of this madness. There was no damage. Miracle. There was no damage a day and a half ago, even though it was in Nagano City itself was a 8.4 earthquake. There's no damage there. No damage anywhere. It was only 10 o'clock. Well, that's cool, man. It's amazing. It's resilient. The toughest people on the planet. So the reason they're evacuating all the people is they had an earthquake on the trench, the tectonic plates off the coastline, and an earthquake right on the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates, which is that dotted line at the bottom of the screen. That's where the earthquake was a day and a half ago, 8.4. All right, that ruptured. That picture is from January the 1st, 2024, when that's the first time in over three millenniums Eurasian plate, North American plate have ruptured. We don't know. It's 3,000 to 4,000. That's a pretty big discrepancy, right? Well, there you go. I hope you hate my guts for all of the misery I brought you tonight. I don't blame you. I can't blame you. Look at the damage section, right? That's what cracks me up. That's a huge section of very high numbers, disguised as a Shinto scale. But let me know what you think in the comment section after the video. Give us a thumb up. That really helps my rating. Okay, it doesn't, but there's nothing you can do that's going to help me because the industry got me locked down. I'm not allowed to exist. I am a non-person. Like Helen Caldecott. So nothing got out of there till 2023, and it was all in 1,000 tanks, and it was only tritium. There's so many lies. How do you keep a track of it all? I don't know. We do, though. We work at it really hard, too. That's after 12. It's after midnight. I was supposed to turn into a pumpkin. I didn't. Here we go. Let's look at the poll one more time. Hello, everybody. I apologize for being batshit crazy, but that was the story tonight, not me. I'm actually okay. The story's fucking nuts, not me. Does Japan have a history of covering up the earthquake damage at the nuclear power plants in Japan? I think I made a pretty good case. I'm not saying I did. I'm not saying I didn't. Okay, actually, I am saying I did. Just trying to be stupid. Yeah. I get dizzy when I'm doing these shows because there's so many little tiny facets you got to keep organized. And I'm an idiot. I don't write anything down. I write it down by collecting little bits, right? And then I can tell the story. I can remember why I collected it, in other words, right? Why did I put this here? Why did I put that there? It's there to remind me to say something. That's it. Then I move on to the next one. It's unorthodox, I know, but So am I. One of the few things I work is how do you tell a complicated story without wearing yourself out, running yourself into the ground, busting yourself up, knocking yourself down. Alrighty, we're going to come over to James's site. It's my favorite go-to site on YouTube. And there's so many songs here that I absolutely can't do without. That was something, wasn't it? I should play that again. And Uranium Plutonium remixes. That's a fantastic rave song. But see, James is making the mistake. He's putting out songs that I absolutely love, and they get a lot of attention. And all of his other fantastic stuff is not getting the attention. Now, I played parts of that earlier. Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan? He's just got that one there. Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan? And the Atomic. I'm not going to try to pronounce that one, but that's two amazing songs. Maybe I should play that again. Yeah, we've been playing. I really want to play that. Maybe I'll play both of them. But we're going 2 hours and 17, 20 minutes or something now. I should get the show over with. So we're going to play this one. This one got an incredible beat to it. I did play Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan in the video. So if you're watching the video, you heard it. You can go find it and hear the rest of it. Listen, I'm going to go with Atomic. This was, there's links under the video of why he wrote that song. But I love the beat into it. I love the story into it. So we're going to go with that. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Hopefully there's no massive earthquakes in Japan for a long time, but we're going to be paying attention. Take care.
Atomic Energo.
This thing rocks when it gets you going.
Folge under inventory.
Dispatch the Yellow King Snow!
Copper mother, concrete budget, ditch the winter, how to turn. Little gauges hatch like beetles at the eyelash of Unit 1. Matryoshka of the pressure vessel, opening was never done. Every door contains a turbine, every turbine collects motherland.
Red lamp, blue lamp, province of the precious state. Dry cat, ballerina, count to 7, latch the gate. Atomic Energo.
Balakovo on the tongue.
Atomic Energo.
Count the rivets, bless the valve.
Atomic Energo.
Say the word clean until it wins. Nothing lives inside the reactor.
Only Wigner effect makes it weaker.
Balakovo in the reservoir mirror. Saratavo, blast jewel branch. Office monitoring. Rosatom up to no good, no debate. Only sequence, no belief, only routine. I was kissed by a dosimeter, now I bloom in corridor green.
Dispatch.
Send a non-reactor site to maintenance.
White gloves on the cooling circuit.
Outage liturgy commands.
Atomic Energo.
System motor, brother salt.
Turn the dolls inside the control room till the inland cosmos falls. Atomic Energo.
Open all the nested doors.
Atomic Energo.
Winter under intake floors.
Atomic Energo.
Turn the valve and call it clean. Every branch becomes a switch yard.
Every switch yard hides a waste stream.
Filial 0.
Paraffin planet.
Focus socket vessel waste.
Atomic Energo. Petillite tulips.
In the maintenance grass.
I'm going to play one more, actually. The Vodka song. Sanctions for vodka. Sanctions for vodka. I want to hear that one too.
They said because of war, because of wreckage in Ukraine, because Moscow must be answered, because there must be pain. So vodka took the penalty to make example, while civil nuclear carried on by separate category. Vodka refused, uranium cleared, Russia condemned, civil atoms spared. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, Russia gets the sanction. Nuclear slips on past. They said no common trade, no comfort from that side. Yet yellow cake enrichment fuel are bypassed and allowed on through. Existing works, civil plants received what they required. One crate held at customs, one reactor chain state supplied. Spirits held back, reactor freight through. War in the wording, nuclear exemption in view. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, Russia gets a sanction. Nuclear slips by as essential. Sanction, project carve out still alive, packs 2 under special handling, while all else tightens shut. One rule for tavern goods, one rule for reactor freight, one rule for public sanction, one rule for what they weigh. Call it civil, call it existing, call it continuity. Spirits refused, uranium welcome, that's the discrepancy. Russia denounced nuclear trade allowed, that is where it splits apart. What they forbid for common optics, they let uranium pass untouched. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts.